Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I'm going to tell you something right now that I don't think I've ever said in a video at the beginning of a video, and that is that if you haven't seen what I'm about to show you, which I just found for the first time, this is the first time I've seen it. If you haven't seen what I'm about to show you, that by the end of this video, I am going to blow your mind. And this has to do with Ripple and what just how big this all really is and how planned this all has been. I'm going to blow your mind if you haven't seen this before. Okay? Now, I've never really talked about this much. This is but this is something that we've seen go around on Twitter, and we've seen this a lot in relation to digital currencies over the last couple of years. Okay, and this is what you're looking at is the Economist magazine from back in I think it was like 1988. It doesn't, I can't see it here. And this has been talked about a lot. Basically they predicted a digital currency, and you know, it looks like they're burning cash and this Phoenix is rising. This has been all over Twitter. But I'm about to show you something by the end of this video that you've never seen before. So be ready. If you haven't seen it, some of you may have seen it, but if you haven't seen it, I'm going to blow your mind. Okay? All right. So here we go. But first, I'm going to get some other things out of the way. We're going to start here. This was a DJ Peter Voss tweet that I thought was fascinating. He says, from American Express, wow, the takeaway. Global, this is from some kind of posting on American Express's website. Global digital currencies are already here, developed by the private sector. Central banks are responding to the challenges of private sector digital currencies by accelerating the pace at which international payments go real time. And by looking into creating their own digital currencies, it may be that in time, one digital currency will emerge to become the new world reserve currency. Alternatively, perhaps the future might be a network of equal currencies in a highly liquid international payments world. All right, now I thought that was a pretty interesting, this part right here especially will emerge to become the new world reserve currency. All right, now I saw this tweet, which I thought was pretty good about VeChain. New to VeChain, VThor, and he basically had a great graphic of the VeChain ecosystem. For those of you that have not seen this, you'll see some pretty big names in here. Deloitte, as you go down, Walmart's on there, BMW. Let me see if there's any, there's Amazon Web Services. They've got a lot of different times here. DHL, I see. But anyway, I just wanted to show you a brief, let me see if there's anything interesting over to this side. There's Sam's. But anyway, VeChain is a monster. So I every once in a while, I want to put that back in your face. Okay. Today, if I do another video today, I'll probably grab some clips from this, but, the Chamber of Digital Commerce at 1 p.m., I'm assuming Eastern time today, is going to have Brad Garlinghouse, being on the stage with these two people. One guy's from King and Spalding. I know that's a law firm. Forecast News. I'm not sure who that is. But anyway, Brad Garlinghouse will probably give us some good sound bites today. Okay. Now, this person, Enlighten Nada, I guess, sent me this. There's a couple of clips that are interesting from Christine Lagarde at the European Central Bank that I wanted to play for you. Here's the first.
My sense is that a very large number of leaders are perfectly aware of the importance of not wasting time and of being able to signal to the Europeans, signal to the investors, signal to the world that there is a level of consensus and a determination to invest together, to recover together, and to support each other that will be demonstrated by a good agreement, an ambitious agreement that would come about relatively soon.
Okay, and then here's another clip. I don't think there's any overlap, but this was tweeted out by Judy Shelton, and this is another clip from her.
Why does it matter so much? Well, it matters so much because if there is no price stability, then clearly the economies cannot function in a sustainable, in a solid way. And whether you look at the corporates, whether you look at families, whether you look at governments, price stability is a key element in order to actually decide to invest, decide to employ, decide to enter into such or such fiscal policies. So price stability, which itself includes multiple factors, is our compass and has to be our compass.
Okay, interesting stuff. Now, XRP Crypto Wolf had sent me this. Major Washington, D.C. lobbyists see a shift in regulatory tone towards cryptocurrencies since the pandemic. There is consensus among lawmakers that it is a good idea to upgrade our money, and that is progress. It has forced Congress to look at new tech for money. All right? So you can tell, you can just feel it, that all these regulators are all heading toward, these politicians and regulators are heading towards a critical moment. You can feel it. That's the whole vibe. All right. Now, I'm not going to go through these very much, but I wanted to point out that I Am Legion. Go give him a follow at PAISAN2684980. He put up two really good threads. I think this one is in response to talking yesterday about the ILP and what Uphold is doing. At the bottom of his thread, he's got the Uphold thing where you can send money from person to person now. But he's got this is a really good thread where he kind of ties in a lot of this about the Interledger protocol. So go give him a follow and watch that. And he also did this one, why Ripple will become a monster. And he's got different things he's strung together here on derivatives. You might want to take a note here. He's got a video here where Blythe Masters from Digital Assets was being, who originated from JP Morgan. We will be talking about her again in a second. She was in this interview with Bob Pisani from CNBC, talking about DeFi and derivatives. Okay, now it's time to blow your mind, folks. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, so yesterday I was showing you this about the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, and Soros, and how they were all getting into cryptocurrency. Well, as I've said to you many times on this channel, there are no coincidences. Everything's tied together, and I'm about to show you and I've said, this has all been planned. This is not something that just happened. So get ready, strap in. You might want to pay attention at this point. All right, so yesterday I showed you that Venrock is the venture capital arm of the Rockefeller family. And also it's worthy of note that 2 out of these 3 families formed the Federal Reserve System, okay? They all got on the train, remember? They got on the train and went to Jekyll Island, Georgia. Creature from Jekyll Island book. I showed you the video clip the other day. Rockefellers and Rothschilds were represented in that meeting, formation of the Federal Reserve. So here you go. You got Venrock. Remember, the Rockefeller family, they got their wealth from oil, Standard Oil. And XRP is the oil, and Ripple is Exxon. Remember that. So I want to just show you how everybody's tied together here. Venrock, one of their investments is Dapper Labs, I believe is what it's called. So if you go down to the bottom of Dapper Labs, you'll see some things you might recognize. Here's Venrock. These are the investors in Dapper Labs. A16Z, that would be Andreessen Horowitz, who is also an investor in Ripple. Google Ventures, who is also an investor in Ripple. Digital Currency Group, that's Barry Silbert. You'll see him again in a minute. Digital Currency Group is also an investor in Ripple. So all these people know each other. They're all connected. None of this is a coincidence, okay? All right, so next we have this. Here's George Soros, and he is standing in the middle. You see Ted, what's his face, that used to own the Braves, Ted Turner. He's from Georgia, where I live. But all of these people are major wealthy people. I think this woman's an Astor. You might recognize that name. But this is George Soros, and he is standing beside none other than David Rockefeller. That's David Rockefeller. I just wanted to show you this to show you all these people know each other. All these money people, they know each other. Okay, these people run the world. All right, so here we go. So next, I want to show you this. This is George Soros on January 25th of 2018.
The misunderstanding.
And by the way, he's a very creepy guy.
The Bitcoin is not a currency, because a currency is supposed to be a stable store of value, and a currency that can fluctuate 25% in a day can't be used, for instance, to pay wages, because the wages could drop by 25% in a day. So it's a speculation. It's based on a misunderstanding. There is also a very innovative blockchain technology, which can be used for positive or negative purposes. Currently, it's used mostly for tax evasion and the let's say for people in the rulers in dictatorships to build a nest egg abroad. So recently there was just now a conference, a Valdai conference, where instead of discussing conditions in Russia, they mainly discussed Bitcoin, because that's what the rulers were interested in. So this will have a big effect on the valuation of Bitcoin. Normally, when you have a parabolic curve, eventually it has a very sharp break. But in this case, I think as long as that you have got dictatorships on the rise, you will have a different ending, because the rulers in those countries are going to turn to Bitcoin to build a nest egg abroad. So I expect instead of an abrupt break to have a rather flat top over, but it's nevertheless a bubble, typical, which is always based on a misunderstanding, like the tulip mania. But the blockchain technology can be put to positive use, and we use it actually in helping migrants to communicate with their families and to keep their money safe and carry it with themselves.
Okay, I just thought that was an interesting clip. That's January 2018. Now remember, he keeps talking about Bitcoin is not a currency and all this, and he was saying basically the same thing that Jamie Dimon was saying, that, oh, this is like the tulips and a fraud and all this. And then, but what you have to understand before I show you this other clip, what you have to understand is Soros and the Rothschilds, these people have learned, this is how they've made fortunes, by manipulating what's going on geopolitically across the world in order to make billions and trillions of dollars. If you're bored sometime, look up Rothschilds and Napoleon, and how they were able to amass wealth by, I can't remember the war, but the Napoleon, they were able to spread a rumor that Napoleon had lost a battle and they made a fortune off of spreading this false rumor. I'm pretty sure I have that story right. But anyway, back to this. So this is January 2018. He's saying scary things about Bitcoin. Here's an explanation of what he was doing by Tika Tiwari on Glenn Beck's show. Listen to this.
Ethical.
Right.
Okay, George Soros.
George Soros, in January 24th, price was already down, calls Bitcoin a bubble, says Bitcoin is...
Said January 24th. This is on January 25th right here when he said all this stuff.
the worst investment in the world. Don't buy Bitcoin. Don't buy Bitcoin. Basically throws gasoline on the fire at this point. And then what do we find out? So he says bubble here.
It drops 44%.
Right. And then here in April, 2 months later, guess what we find out?
Yeah.
His $26 billion family office has approval to buy cryptocurrency.
Right. And we only knew about it publicly here. And this is the kind of thing that George Soros is famous for this, talking the sterling down.
Yeah.
And what did he do? He stole the pensions of all the little people.
Yeah, made $1 billion.
Yeah. Okay.
So you see how the game's played? Now look, this is from April 2018, which is what they were talking about there. I'll just show you the intro to this.
In January, billionaire investor George Soros called cryptocurrency a bubble. Now, according to Bloomberg, he's changed his tune and he's ready to start trading the digital assets some call bigger than the internet.
I think the blockchain is the biggest revolution of our time.
All right, that's all I wanted to show you there. Okay, so you see that. You see how these people play the game. All right, now let's look at this. These are this is the holdings, and I'm sure it's changed since this, but these are the holdings, like you'll see. That's from 3/31/2020. These are some of the holdings of the Soros Fund. I just wanted to show you this to show you some of the companies that we've been talking about. He's a big holder of BNY Mellon. You'll see that. And by the way, I haven't even begun to blow your mind yet. You're about to have your mind blown. But as we go down here, you'll see a lot of names of companies that I have talked about a lot on this channel in relation to Ripple. There's Goldman Sachs. He owns a big piece of just about CME Group. Remember CME Group, where Miguel Valles came from? Let me see if there's anything else interesting. I'm not going to go through all this. It's not really that relevant. I just wanted to kind of show you. There's this BlackRock investment, Bank of America, American Express. I think we've shown you enough here. Let me see if he's in Visa. I think he probably is. Let's see if it's on here. No, I don't see it, but I'm sure he's in and out of Visa as well. But anyway, okay, moving on. So I was looking around for different. What I was looking for is I was trying to find something on Venrock, and I typed in Venrock and I typed in Chris Larsen. Now remember, Venrock is the venture capital firm for the Rockefellers. I want to see, has Chris Larsen ever been in the room with Venrock? And he has. So here's what popped up. Now remember, I started this video with this from the Economist, right? All right. So here's what pops up. This is what puts Venrock in the same room with Chris Larsen, but it puts a lot more people in the same room with Chris Larsen. It's called the Buttonwood Gathering. This happened on October 20th of 2015 in New York. The Buttonwood Gathering, the valley meets the street. In other words, they bring Silicon Valley. In other words, they saw some reason that it was time for Wall Street and Silicon Valley to get together. And what is that thing? It's digital assets, folks. Write it down. Okay. It says in 5 years' time, the finance sector, this was in 2015. We're now in 2020. In 5 years' time, the finance sector will be very different from what it is today. A range of new products built on recent innovations spanning mobile money and robo-advisors to Bitcoin and blockchain. And new players alongside older ones will create new opportunities to serve customers better, to profit more. These changes will also potentially bring dangers such as even greater incidence of cybercrime, This is sponsored by The Economist, folks. It's called The Economist Events. It's sponsored by The Economist magazine, folks. Look at some of the speakers. This guy's a partner at Venrock. That's Rockefeller's. I'm going to go through these just so I don't miss anybody. MIT Media Lab. You're about to see a cast of characters. I mean, this is kind of like The Usual Suspects. You're about to see a cast of characters that I've been talking about for over 2 years on this channel. Let's go through just some of them. I'm going to try to, there's someone from Barclays, Wells Fargo, let's see, Citigroup has their chief innovation officer, Citi Ventures. Let's see here. Chris Larson, chief executive, Ripple Labs is there. Lending Club, Blythe Masters. There's Blythe Masters, who's the chief executive, Digital Asset Holdings, and was at JP Morgan. They sent her to get into this digital asset space. And then you've got, let's see, oh, there's Larry Summers. Remember Larry Summers? President Emeritus, Harvard University. Remember, Larry Summers is one of the advisors at the Digital Currency Group, which owns part of Ripple. And also, do you know who else you have? You got Barry Silbert himself from the Digital Currency Group. And I just saw something that I'm not going to say right now, but I just saw something that jumped off this page at me that I need to tell some of my friends. Whoa. Okay. You got, whoa, I just got my own mind blown and didn't even notice it. Okay. And then you got general counsel from PayPal. All right. Okay. So, are you ready? So here we go. All right, so let's look at this event, the Buttonwood Finance and Economics Forum. This is a whole page. They had a website called Valley Meets the Street, and this is Chris Larson's page where they featured him as a speaker. And I forgot to even pull up Valley Meets the Street, the website itself. This is Chris Larson's page where he talks about, they ask him a few questions and what he's going to talk about, what he's going to look for. Here's where it gets interesting, folks. This is the overview. This is from the Economist magazine website, their events section. Look at what they said this is about. Why attend? The Buttonwood Gathering is the Economist Events flagship finance conference. This event will aim to prepare economic policymakers and regulators in government, central banks, multilateral institutions, such as the IMF, World Bank, and other market watchdogs for digital finance revolution. Let me say that again. This event will aim to prepare economic policymakers and regulators in government, central banks, multilateral institutions, such as the IMF, World Bank, and other market watchdogs for the digital finance revolution. The whole point of this meeting is for them to prepare these bigwigs, folks. So look, let's look at some of the companies in attendance at this. This is at the last event. American Express, BlackRock, BNY Mellon. Do you recognize any of these names? Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Well, isn't that where Glenn Hutchins is now? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, MasterCard, McKinsey, Prudential Investment Management, the World Bank, Wells Fargo, State Bank of India, PepsiCo, PwC. Are you seeing okay, I'm back. I had to turn the video off for a minute because I was right here on this page with you. Well, I was about to really get into this, and my wife calls, and I didn't answer the phone because I was in the middle of the video. And then my son comes in here, knocks on the door, and then comes in here and says that Mom's got a flat tire. She was on her way out of town and had a flat tire. So I had to go get in the car, drive out there, deal with all of that. And now I'm back to finish this video so that I can blow your mind. So I'm going to go back to this. Why attend? The Buttonwood Gathering, this is the important part right here. This event will aim to prepare economic policymakers and regulators in government, central banks, multilateral institutions such as the IMF, World Bank, and other market watchdogs for the digital finance revolution. And you see this list of companies. Now, while I'm showing you all this, I want you to understand, this is 2015. Ripple is a startup, right? Let me say that again, a startup. that began in 2012, okay? 2012, all right? And Chris Larsen is in this kind of company, just like that. So let's look at who all is here. I'm just going to hit some of these names. Blythe Masters of Digital Asset Holdings, who was at JP Morgan during the financial crisis. In fact, she headed the derivatives. She literally created what ended up being the problem in the financial crisis. This is the head of Chief Innovation Officer at Citi Ventures, Larry Summers, who's an advisor to the Digital Currency Group, right? He was also, if you remember, he was at the Bretton Woods 75th anniversary with the Chamber of Digital Commerce, same Chamber of Digital Commerce that Chris Giancarlo, who had the Digital Dollar Project, is also on the board at, I believe is what I remember. Now let's keep going. Let's go down this is like the chief economist at The Economist, the chief editor-in-chief at The Economist. Okay, this is the session that Chris Larsen headed. It's called Finance's Uber Moment. Experts discuss how fast and how much this wave of tech innovation will change finance, what that will mean for the economy, what will the timeline be for disruption, which firms will be the winners. So you got a guy from Ripple, this startup there. You got the lady from Digital Asset Holdings. Remember, they are both, as I recall, they were both on that board at the IMF Technology Advisory Council with Jeremy Allaire from Circle. Remember that? I do. You got someone from Deutsche Bank, Citi. Now let's go down. Oh, there's Nick Baim, who's partner at Venrock, which is the Rockefeller family's venture capital firm. And then let's just go down, partner at Sequoia Capital. They're big timers. Rise of the Machines. Let's see. I'm just going to call out the names Robert Goldstein from BlackRock. There's somebody from BlackRock. There's somebody from Lending Club. I'm just going to go down this list, and if anything jumps out at me, I will call it out to you. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, there's Barry Silbert from Digital Currency Group, right? Okay, and then we have someone from MIT. Do you remember I've shown you in the past, shown you an MIT. It's like a think tank they created for digital assets. We go down the list. There's MIT, right? Let's see what else we've got. There's the general counsel for PayPal, head of innovation group at Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Solutions Labs. That's the head of digital, Chase Advisory Council member. Who else do we have? Let's go down this. Oh, there's somebody from MasterCard. And then we've got Center for Financial Services Innovation. Let's see what else. Oh, there's Larry Summers from Harvard University, another Wells Fargo. There's someone from Dwola. And then you've got SoFi. And I think that's it. Now, here's what I'm about to do. I went and found the videos from the Buttonwood Gathering, okay? Went and found the videos. And so some of these videos may overlap. I'm going to hit the pause button when I see someone that I need to point out to you. But strap in, because this is going to be fun. Well, first, this is 5 years before the gathering. This is just an intro video that tells you about the gathering. I want you to watch this. If we see someone I want to mention to you, then I will stop the video. It's all sponsored by The Economist.
On May the 17th, 1792, 24 stockbrokers met under a buttonwood tree outside 68 Wall Street and agreed to set up the New York Stock and Exchange Board.
It was a symbol of Wall Street, but also it was where people originally met to trade and to discuss and to argue. It's what Wall Street is about.
Clearly things have changed a bit since the 18th century. We feel it's time to gather a new group of people together to reach a new kind of consensus.
There's Larry Summers.
An engine like the American economy is a fantastic beast, but at the moment, it's got problems and it'll take time to work those out. In some ways, it's the more people can face up to those problems, the more they can get them through, the quicker we can move on.
Tim Geithner, who headed up who was at the New York Federal Reserve during the financial crisis.
There's been a loss of faith in public institutions and a deep loss of confidence in critical parts of our economy.
Larry Summers, who's at the Digital Currency Group.
I believe that we can create a system that is much less vulnerable than the system that we have today. And we can create a system that preserves and indeed strengthens.
George Soros. You can't make this stuff up.
The kind of people you need to bring together to discuss these issues should be as broad as possible. You need financiers, but you also need politicians. You need academics, you need people with ideas from outside. You need people who are business people, but not necessarily financiers.
We want the Buttonwood Gathering to be a new environment for financial and economic debate. Opening up finance is also what The Economist has always been about. We cover many things around the world each week, but at our heart, we are a chronicle of finance and economic freedom. We want all of you to discuss, to debate, to explain, to question, to help us open up finance.
People have very different views, and those views need to be aired, and that's one of the things we hope to achieve at Buttonwood.
There's George Soros again. So they knew in 2010, right after the financial crisis, they knew they had to fix this. That's what I've said since the inception of this channel. Now, let's go to the 2015. This is the one that Chris Larson, where he came to it. Buttonwood Gathering, October 20th, New York City. August 12th, 2015. It was actually in October, but anyway, this was posted later on.
The one word to describe the future of finance is disrupted.
Exciting.
Innovative.
In 2 words, the future of finance is personal and mobile. This year's Buttonwood Gathering is all about financial technology and the extent to which the old financial industry, very staid, very traditional, is going to be disrupted by a wave of new startups and a wave of innovation.
Goldman Sachs estimates that even now there are $4.7 trillion worth of potential revenue.
Global investment in fintech.
In the fintech industry, financial technology, and I think that that's perhaps on the conservative side.
What we're seeing at the moment is lots of new startup companies that are thinking that the finance industry is absolutely ripe to be torn apart.
People ask, are banks going to be around in 10 years? Banks will be around in 2025, 2035, probably 2125.
It's very hard to imagine banks not providing things like current accounts or being the backbone of payment infrastructures. But I think what you will see is many more competitors arising and nibbling away.
Pause this. So this is the third time I've had to stop this video and start it back because the tow truck guy called me and my wife had forgotten to put the key with the car. And so I just had to deal with that fire. But this is Friday and it's not starting out right, but we're still showing you some quality stuff, and that's what's important. So watch this.
At the bank's franchises.
It's as likely that a company like Facebook or a business we've never heard of is going to be doing much of what we today think of as financial services.
The rise of digital currencies like Bitcoin is going to keep continuing. It is also plausible to imagine that cash is a thing of the past.
That doesn't mean that money as a means of transfer, as a source of value, is going to disappear.
There's a big portion of the population that's not necessarily comfortable with new technology or that doesn't have access to the new technology, and if only for them, you should expect to see notes and coins around for a while.
The biggest risk from the financial industry going completely digital is cybersecurity.
Our own personal data starts to be abused by people who are trying to exploit our financial ignorance and illiteracy.
All banks are worried about this, and fintech innovators need to bear this in mind as well.
The best thing that could happen is it will ease the way for huge numbers of people that currently have no access to the financial system to have access to it.
In emerging markets and even in poor countries, there are many more people with access to mobile phones than there are to bank accounts. So it makes a lot of sense to develop financial services that are delivered not through bank branches, but through mobile phones.
Developing world countries are going to use mobile money to leapfrog to a new model of financial services that is maybe more advanced in many ways than what we have in the developed world.
What you are going to see over the next 10 years are emerging market institutions like the Chinese banks, like Indian banks, becoming more interested in their geographical.
Did you catch that right there? Proponents envisage an internet of value that can make money flow as freely as data are flowing already.
It's becoming more interested in their geographical and product ambitions.
The goal of this year's Buttonwood Gathering is to debate what's going on and to try and map out the next 5 to 10 years for finance. Who will win and who will lose in this huge technological disruption that's taking place.
I think we know who will win, but here's another promo video they did of the same thing.
Global economy in one word, I'd probably go with rudderless.
Fragile.
Crony-esque.
Flux.
I think the global economy is an interesting phase at the moment. It seems to be beginning finally to recover in the West. The emerging world has not sped ahead in the way many of us wanted, but it's still got hope.
We have sort of put out the financial fires that were flaring up.
See any names there that you might recognize?
Sort of put out the financial fires that were flaring up across the system over the past half-decade. But we haven't really solved a lot of the fundamental problems. There are enough hazards left in the global economy that the odds are decent that something may go wrong.
The theme of the conference is the state in the economy, and ever since the crisis we've seen regulators and the government get more involved in the economy, both to prop up demand and also to try and eliminate excesses we saw in the run-up to 2007.
Financial globalization has gone into reverse. The assertive role of the state has gone beyond just things like financial stability, how do we prevent the next crisis, to much more strategic security and criminal-related things.
We've gone on a bit of a regulatory binge, which has increased the burden for companies, and it's really changed the rules.
Alan Greenspan, the former Federal Reserve Chair.
I think there is a fundamental question about what exactly the role of the state should be.
I think there are going to be a few key things that investors need to keep an eye on over the next few years.
One hot topic is what happens when the Fed starts raising interest rates.
What happens when central banks wind down the support that they've been bringing to the market?
I think the biggest challenge is what is the appropriate way to act in the market and what is the inappropriate way to act in the market.
The rise of geopolitical risk again.
Are politicians able, willing,
That's the Karstens guy who runs the BIS.
bold enough to do the tough reforms that are necessary to boost economic growth rates?
The most urgent issue facing
That is Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock.
the economy is the gap between Main Street and Wall Street.
A lot of people look at bankers and think they played such a large role in the
CME Group, where Miguel Valles came from to go to Ripple.
previous crunch. And so there is a difficulty between, on one hand, trying to get the best out of these people, on the other hand, being aware of the political costs of doing so.
I think the temptation for governments is to micromanage things or to try to solve each individual problem that kind of popped up. And I'm not sure that that's going to work.
What is my recommendation to policymakers who currently are in a position to reshape the American economy? In a word, they should resign. The more they go away, the better things will get.
I would tell government officials that they should focus on Winston Churchill's statement of 1926. I would rather see finance less proud and industry more content.
We need a new revolution in terms of what the state provides and how it does it.
If I had to bet on one economy, it would be America.
If there's one country that I am watching like a hawk, it's India.
America would be the best bet over the next 10 years.
Many of us are always intrigued by Estonia.
It's always been a mistake to bet against the US economy, and I think that probably remains the case now.
I think Buttonwood's always interesting because you bring together these thinkers, these economists, these academics, bankers, financiers, and it works as a kind of melting pot.
I think my hope for the Buttonwood Gathering this year is that I'll sort of discover something that I hadn't been paying attention to.
What Buttonwood does every year is bring top speakers together so that those who are interested in finance and economics can hear the views of the people who really move markets and move economies.
We are trying to come up with ideas, solutions, criticism sometimes, for the way the system works.
And all of that was sponsored by the Economist magazine. And for those of you that don't know, this is who owns the Economist magazine, Rothschild. I'm a digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe and hit the like button and tell your friends and family 2 things. 1, we've been right all along. And 2, my wife had a flat tire today. Thanks for listening.